You may have heard of the book Mormon Doctrine, but did you know Latter-day Saints no longer believe some of the doctrines found in this book? In this video, I'll show you 5 things from Mormon Doctrine that Latter-day Saints don't actually believe. But first, let's get something out of the way. There were some significant changes from the first edition to the second edition of the Mormon Doctrine book. Since I only have a copy of the second edition, I'll use it for the basis of my comparisons. However, my understanding is that the first edition had more explicit and strong language about certain topics, while the second edition is purposely a bit softer. Also, I need to mention that this book is not an official publication of the church. The book is essentially an encyclopedia-style book written by Elder Bruce R. McConkie in the 1960s. He was a former member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. This book is not endorsed as official doctrine of the church, rather it was Elder McConkie's own understanding and interpretations. So if you've never heard of this book, please keep that in mind and don't get freaked out. But with that, let's get into the list. Number 1, under the section titled Races of Men, the book seems to imply that those of darker skin were less valiant in the pre-Earth life. Quote, "We know that all these changes from the physical and spiritual perfections of our common parents, Adam and Eve, have been brought about by departure from gospel truths. The race and nation in which men are born in this world is a direct result of their pre-existent life." But the church officially does not support this idea at all. Today, the church disavows the theories advanced in the past that black skin is a sign of divine disfavor or curse, or that it reflects unrighteous actions in a pre-mortal life.
Furthermore, I don't know all the reasons why the circumstances of birth, health, education, and economic opportunities vary so widely in mortality.
Number 2, card playing. Mormon Doctrine has a section called card playing, and under the "see also" right below the definition, it says apostasy.
Wow.
Yeah, this book goes hard on playing cards, and while it seems to mostly focus on gambling, like sitting around a table, smoking cigarettes, and playing poker, I want to focus on what it says near the end of the entry. Quote, "Members of the church should neither play cards nor have them in their homes. And, to the extent that church members play cards, they are out of harmony with their inspired leaders. And finally, innocent, non-gambling games played with other types of cards are not objectionable." Translation: the typical face cards you see at casinos are bad news, no, and shouldn't even be in the house. To be clear, gambling is not good, and the church has consistently taught its members to avoid gambling. But the use of playing cards themselves for non-gambling games seems to be more up to the individual in these days, and I'm not finding much more about it online anymore. In the very least, in my observation, I do not see this being practiced by the vast majority of Latter-day Saints today. But comment below your thoughts. Is it bad to have face cards in the house? What do you think? Number 3, birth control. The book Mormon Doctrine heavily implies that one should not use birth control. Some members today still follow this advice and avoid birth control altogether. However, the official statements from the church say the following: "The decision of how many children to have and when to have them is a private matter for a husband and wife." And later on it says sexual relations within marriage are not only for the purpose of procreation, but also a means of expressing love and strengthening emotional and spiritual ties between husband and wife. We're on to number 4, the word of wisdom. Now, the word of wisdom is still an important part of the church and practiced and recognized today. However, I want to highlight one part of the entry on the word of wisdom in Mormon Doctrine. This is what it says, quote, Certainly, the partaking of cola drinks, though not included within the measuring standard here set out, is in violation of the spirit of the word of wisdom. Now, this statement is not without controversy today. In general, the principle of avoiding foods that are bad for you seems like a good idea, seems consistent with the word of wisdom. But the interesting part of this statement is the specific call out of cola drinks, Coca-Cola, Diet Coke. Why not just say artificially sugary drinks? The reason I wanted to include this in this video is because now BYU, among other church-owned schools, offers caffeinated cola drinks on their campus. So according to Mormon Doctrine, is BYU violating the spirit of the word of wisdom? How much is too much? Comment below with your thoughts. And finally, number 5, and I found this one quite interesting, Raffles. Have you ever gone to a friend's house for a party where you all chip in a small fee and play some sort of game or competition to see who takes home a fun prize? Perhaps March Madness coming up? Well then, you are guilty of raffling, you raffling-er. The entry has a quote by President Joseph F. Smith, who seems to specifically be talking about raffling under the auspices of our church organizations. However, he also declares the following: the desire to get something of value for little or nothing is pernicious, and any proceeding that strengthens that desire is an effective aid to the gambling spirit, which has proved a veritable demon of destruction to thousands. The entry also quotes Sister Ezra R. Snow, who added, "Tell the sisters not to raffle. If the mothers raffle, the children will gamble. Raffling is gambling." Now, perhaps raffles were different 60 years ago and I'm misreading something here, but to me it seems to imply that even raffles with a few friends could be bad. And I get that. They could be bad if they aid the gambling spirit. We don't want that. The church still is consistently teaching against gambling. But today, you don't hear many conference talks addressing the evils of raffles. Now, the Mormon Doctrine book does have a lot of great stuff in it, and it probably gets a worse rep than it deserves. Probably 90% of this stuff is still good information about the church's doctrines and beliefs today. Some might blame books like this when outsiders call the church a cult. But really, the accusations of being a cult are from outsiders who would probably call us anything that sounds derogatory. Don't believe me? Well, check out the next video to find out.